Hello and welcome to the First Pick right here on HCTV. I'm Ben Simpson. Alongside me this afternoon, Mike Cerrone. Episode 1, Mike. For the fans at home, we are sports kind of gurus here and there, sports fans, and we like to talk about a bunch of different stuff. So on the show, once a week, we're going to get into a bunch of different topics. And a little clue on our format today, we're going to go over some headlines, both national headlines, and then we're going to get into some fact or fiction game. And then we're going to finish up with our picks of the week, because Mike and I, we're very competitive guys. We like to keep track of who's doing what, and for our picks. And we do a radio show on Sunday, so we keep track of those picks. We're going to definitely keep track. And you can definitely pick at home as well. But Mike, I'd like to welcome you into the show, buddy.
It feels great to be on the First Pick here at HCTV. And everyone, if you want to do the picks of the week, we love to get all of your information. Go on Twitter, at Cerrone16 for me, at First Pick Blog for Mr. Simpson to my left. And if you want to compete with us, do it every single week. We're going to be airing 6 p.m. every single Friday right here on HCTV. So, again, let's get the show right on the road here, Ben.
All right, Mike, let's get into some headlines today. We got a couple big ones. Obviously, a lot of big stuff happening in the news lately. Well, first of all, none biggest than the USA. The USA national team won their game against Ghana 2-1, and a comeback win. You had Clint Dempsey get the opening goal in one of the fastest times in World Cup history. Then you had John Brooks finish with the header on the cross. But Mike, for the USA, things looked pretty bad for a little bit. And this is a team that needs these opening wins. They need these points. And then you were able to come back against Ghana. Brooks with a great finish, and Klinsmann with a great sub.
Yeah, definitely. When you're looking at Klinsmann, he hasn't made a lot of great moves lately. And basically, when you're looking at all of his tactics, saying that they're not realistic to win, and overall, when you're looking at his motives to try to get the USA team motivated, they haven't been one with the nation. And when you're also looking at his moves during the game, John Brooks was a huge move that he made early in the second half. And also, when you're looking at the goal that Clint Dempsey had early, it gave a lot of good motivation to the USA team. But also, when Ghana was dominating the whole entire game and completely disseminating the defense for the USA team, it really came down to overall just domination by Ghana. But then when they came back and they ended up tying the game at 1-1, and then John Brooks came back with 6 minutes later or so, coming back in the 85th minute and scoring that goal that put him up 2-1, it really set the tide of the game and gave USA the victory in the end.
And we're going to get later in USA-Portugal. We're going to pick that game. But, Mike, let's be honest. USA, here in this group, this is the quote-unquote group of death with Germany in there, with Portugal in there, and then Ghana, which USA barely squeaked by. As far as hopes for the rest of the World Cup, well, you don't have to give me your pick yet, but, Mike,
we're getting that later.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hope, but this was a big win for them to be able to get these points. Especially when you have Germany and Portugal still in this group.
Definitely. This is called the group of death for a reason. Germany, one of the best teams, if not the best team, ranked in the world. And you're also looking at Portugal with the superstar, Cristiano Ronaldo, as the Germany and Portugal matchup, as they were saying earlier, was superstar versus super machine. So when you're looking at it, it definitely is something to watch out for, especially the game against USA and Germany, which everyone's overlooking because they're looking at the one against Portugal coming up, because basically it's going to come down because of the USA won, between Portugal and the United States. But you're looking at the Germany matchup. Germans, they might put their subs in a little early, and that might be a deciding factor for the USA to move forward.
All right, let's move on to basketball, Mike. Let's move on to NBA Finals. San Antonio beating Miami in 5 games, 4-1 in the series. Now, you and I both talked on the radio about, we basically agreed that San Antonio was going to win this series. But I didn't think that they were necessarily going to win 4-1. And finishing off at the end of there, you get Kawhi Leonard, who is Finals MVP. Greg Popovich takes his 5th title. Tim Duncan wins his 5th title. For San Antonio, a team that was lost by a squeaker last year in the Finals, they're able to finish off a good Heat team in big fashion, 4-1.
We were on the radio, and I said the Spurs were going to win in 6. And they beat my prediction by winning in 5, and that was against the Heat team that was favored in the whole entire aspect of the beginning of the season. So when you're looking at the LeBron James Miami Heat, I'm going to say LeBron James because he is basically the leader. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
In the Big 3 era, they won so many games. They've been to 4 straight titles, and you're looking at it and thinking, is this going to be one of the types of seasons that changes LeBron James' thought process? Obviously, he liked it when he won 2 straight titles. They went for the three-peat. It didn't happen. And looking at the San Antonio Spurs, I mean, is that big three era between Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, and Tony Parker done? Because, they're coming to the end of their careers. Tim Duncan did say in the postgame that he was going to stay and that he feels like he can still play basketball. So looking at it, we don't know what's going to happen next season. This is going to be a great offseason. And going into the NBA Finals, the Spurs just dominated.
Well, here, tell me right now, does LeBron stay?
No, he does not.
He does not stay. Where does he go? Where can LeBron go? Now, listen, you have a couple options here for LeBron. So either you stay with a team that you've had a lot of opportunities to win titles with, you have won 2 titles with, but that team, that Miami team, they're getting old. Clearly this year was not one of their better years, and we're going to get into that later if that big three is completely done in Miami. But then you have the option of going to, where's he going to go, though? I mean, you don't want to go into a New York situation. You want to go to the Knicks. You're not going to the Chicago, the Jordan territory. So if you're LeBron, Mike, I mean, yes, you say he's going to leave, but where would he even go?
Again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, @Cerrone16, I tweeted out a picture that was a plane ticket that said Miami to Cleveland. And I tweeted out and I said, @King James, if you would like, I would already book this for you, and I will pay for the flight to go back to Cleveland. Now, I'm a Washington Wizards fan, but I told him through Twitter.
I'm sure he saw it, Mike.
He looked at my tweet. Yeah. I know you did, King James. So when you're looking at it, I definitely tweeted that out. And again, Cerrone16, check it out. I'm not lying here, folks. Basically, he's going back to Cleveland, and that's done. Done deal. Story is over.
Cleveland is a team that's building young talent. They're not going to bring in a guy like LeBron to come in here and just distract all these young guys. This is Kyrie Irving's team. This is Tristan Thompson's team. These guys, it just wouldn't make any sense to bring a guy. Now, I know you and everyone in Ohio really wants LeBron to come back. He's not coming back, Mike. He's not coming back.
He had his going back.
Cleveland. Okay, all right. All right, Mike says he's going back. I'm saying he's not. Let's move on. Let's move on to
play first class.
Play a little fact or fiction here. Every single week, we're going to bring a game here into the studio and kind of go back and forth on some of our opinions. As you can already tell, Mike's a little opinionated. Let's get into let's play the game here, Mike. Fact or fiction? Question number 1: Soccer will become a major sport in the United States.
I'm going to definitely go fiction there. I'm a huge soccer fan. I watch all of the European soccer, but we're talking about the United States here, folks. And the MLS has been trying to get the players from European leagues over. And for instance, Thierry Henry, David Beckham, but it's not becoming one of the major sports in the United States. And in my opinion, I believe that it can't trounce hockey, baseball, football, and just everything. Basketball, it's not one of the major sports. People don't go there and sell out for the championships or whatever. They have great players that play in the MLS, but when you're looking at it, it's just not a huge sport. So I'm going with fiction on this one.
When most of your collection of fan base here, Mike, when you have all the U.S. watchers watching games that are played across the ocean, watching the Premier League, not watching your league, the MLS, then it's a joke. I mean, the MLS is a joke. U.S. soccer is a joke. It's not going to be able to, because you're competing, like you said, against football, which is always going to be king in this country. You're competing against baseball, America's pastime. You're competing against, like you said, sports like hockey and basketball. They're a little lower as far as fan base and watchers. But when you have those four, I call them the big four, when you have those 4 sports going against you, you're just not going to be able to become a quote-unquote major sport. You're going to stay a minor sport regardless. Plus, like you said, the quality of play in America, you watch an MLS game, you watch a game over in the Premier League, Mike, it's just no contest.
Well, you're also looking at the sole fact that basically the Bundesliga in Germany, the La Liga in the Spanish, and then obviously the Barclays Premier League in England, those leagues trounce the MLS. They have such great players over there. Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi. I mean, everyone. Schweinsteiger. Everyone over there in Europe is just trouncing the MLS, and they just can't get the players and the talent over to the MLS to the point where they're going to become one of the major big 5, as you would call it.
Plus, before we move on, Mike, MLS season, March to October, you're dealing with March Madness. You're dealing with NBA playoffs. You're dealing with baseball playoffs. Not going to happen. Moving on. You would want Carmelo Anthony on your team. Fact or fiction, Mike?
Moving over to basketball, I believe that looking at it, Carmelo Anthony, I loved him playing at Syracuse, but I don't want him on the Washington Wizards. And Ben has a different opinion as well because he would say, because he has 2 teams, the Washington Wizards, Detroit Pistons. So when you're looking at it, I think that overall, it's just not someone you want on your team. He's a ball hog. He doesn't play a lot of great defense. He might play defense every now and then, but you want someone that's an all-around player, such as a LeBron James or even a Michael Jordan. And obviously those are 1 in a million talents. But I'm saying an all-around talent or someone that's a role player. You want that scorer on your team, but you don't want a Carmelo Anthony because he's obviously in it for the money. And we've seen that time and time again when he was at Denver and when he is now in New York Knicks. And now Phil Jackson's there. I don't think that's going to work out. So I'm definitely going fiction on this one.
I'm going fiction as well. Well, I'm going half fiction. I'm going fiction for the Wizards. Because if we're talking about our team, so I'm going fiction for the Wizards. Because, yeah, a young team like Washington doesn't need a guy like Carmelo Anthony who doesn't pass the ball. As soon as you give him the ball, everyone else might as well just run down the court because no one else is going to get to shoot. You put him on Detroit, though, Mike. See, I'll bring him to the Pistons because that team is already a big enough mess, bringing in guys like Josh Smith, bringing in all these free agents. That might as well screw things up even more by bringing in Carmelo Anthony. The Big Three era has come to an end. Fact or fiction? I'll start on this one, Mike. I'll let you start the other two. I'll start on this
thanks.
one. The Big Three era has come to an end. Fact or fiction? I'll go with fact. I just think, 1, LeBron's not going to be on a Miami uniform anymore. 2, Dwayne Wade's getting too old. And 3, Chris Bosh is not going to be in a Miami uniform anymore. So there's your big three. Those are the 3 of your big 3. Then there's no big 3, Mike. And then Miami as a team is just not going to be able to be what they were. They're too old everywhere else. They still have never been able to have a good enough surrounding cast. Yeah, they won 2 titles. But off of Shane Battier, Mike, off of, Chris Anderson, Birdman. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So the Big Three era definitely has come to an end. Fact.
Man, we're on the same page today. I'm going fact as well because of the sole fact that LeBron's going to Cleveland. So as I said before, he's going to Cleveland, folks, and you heard it here first, HCTV.
Not happening, Mike.
So right here on the first pick, Mike Cerrone says he's going to Cleveland. You know it. So come give me a handshake here in Herndon if you would like to congratulate me when it happens. But looking at it, I definitely think it's over because of the sole fact that Chris Bosh is dwindling down his career because the stats aren't there anymore as they were in Toronto. Dwayne Wade was terrible in Game 5, and LeBron just doesn't have any help. When they lost the last 3 games of that series by 17-plus points, it comes down to a point where LeBron wants to win, and right now it's not happening because obviously they came down the Pacers series where the Pacers were playing pretty terrible. They still came down to having some competition. And the Miami Heat right now are just in shambles. Obviously, when they come down to play a great team, just like the San Antonio Spurs are, it just crumbles down to nothing. And right now, the Miami Heat are in shambles. They have a lot of cap space, but I don't think it's going to happen.
2 interesting teams to look out for in the next 5 years. I mean, to look where they're going to be now and where they are going to be in 5 years. Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs. Because Tim Duncan's going to be gone, Tony Parker's going to be gone, Manu's going to be gone, Popovich is going to be gone, San Antonio's going to be different in 5 years. Miami, LeBron, Bosh, Wade, they're all going to be gone too. So 2 big markets now. Miami, San Antonio. I like that market way better than Miami. Those fans show up at halftime, but still. All right, moving on.
Or leave at halftime.
Or leave at halftime. Tim Duncan, top 5 player of all time. That's a tricky one. Fact or fiction?
So we have on our papers right here, after that finals was completed, he has 5 NBA titles, 3 MVPs of the finals, and 2 NBA regular season MVPs. So you're looking at it and thinking, comparing to Jordan, he's up there. Obviously, he doesn't have all the accolades that Jordan has, or even LeBron right now, for that matter, except for the titles. But you're looking at it and thinking, okay, is Tim Duncan a top 5 player? I'm going to go with fiction on this one. I think that you look at Larry Bird, you think at even Bill Russell, you think of Magic Johnson, MJ. I mean, just people in that nature that come to mind, especially the Dream Team back in the 90s for the Olympics. People like Barkley even. It just comes down to it when you're looking at these players and all of their arsenal of play and the teams that they were on and the competition they were playing. I think he's definitely probably in the back half of the top 10 right now. He still has maybe 1 or 2 years left to go, but looking at it, I definitely think it's fiction, and he's really close to being in that top 5.
Tim Duncan, the perennial underrated player in the history of the league. This is just what happens. He's got the old man's game, and Mike, this is the way I play basketball too, where you're just chucking it off the backboard all the time because you're shorter than everybody else. Now, Tim Duncan's taller than everybody else, but still, it's that old man's slow game, and he's made a career out of it. And that's, like you said, 5 NBA titles, 3 Finals MVPs, 2 NBA regular season MVPs. So, he's a fantastic player, but no one ever talks about him. Who talks about Tim Duncan, Mike? What guys do you see walk around wearing Tim Duncan jerseys that are not in San Antonio? They wear the...
Not me.
Exactly. They wear the Melo jerseys. They wear the LeBron jerseys. There's nobody wearing a Tim Duncan jersey, and he's just going to get that disrespect. But top 5, like you said, no chance. You got MJ in there. All the names that you said, I'm not going to repeat them all because those are the exact names that are our top 5. So For Tim Duncan, great career, not top 5 worthy, not even close. So that's definitely
All right,
fiction.
don't say not even close now.
It's not even close.
It's not. It is close.
No.
I said he was
There's
the back
too many
half of the
people.
top 10.
Kobe, you put above him. I put Shaquille O'Neal above him.
That's okay. That's stretching a little bit.
Okay. All right. Last one here. We do it. We could do an entire show on
yes,
that.
indeed. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Last fact or fiction. You would be okay with your favorite baseball player using PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs.
You have to say fiction because right now, if you want to go by stats, Melky Cabrera and Nelson Cruz are actually leading some people in the MLB All-Star voting, and they had 50-game suspensions for using performance-enhancing drugs. And obviously, as we know, Ben, the MLB All-Star game is fan-voted. So when you're looking at it and thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? Are people even caring anymore? Like, for instance, Ryan Braun, when he was lying to people, Lance Armstrong for doping, that's a different sport, but the same thing.
Yeah.
You're thinking about it. Is it going to come down to cheating is right? Is that going to show the right responsibility and the right example for people outside, for youngsters, for whatever it may be? And I definitely think it's fiction because I don't want my favorite players. And right now I have tons of favorite players because my favorite player was Mike Messina for the Baltimore Orioles back in the day.
Old school. All
before
right.
he went to the Yankees, that was not good. I still have a picture of him, by the way.
All right,
but.
good.
I wouldn't want him using performance-enhancing drugs, and just looking at it overall, I think that it's just showing a bad example, and it's not something good for the sport, for instance, for baseball or for football or wherever it may be. So you have to go fiction on this one because, the fans out there voting for Melky Cabrera and Nelson Cruz are just looking at stats and thinking, okay, they're not as good as they were when they were using PEDs, but they're still pretty good ball players, which is good at the same time. But you got to face the facts here.
In today's sports world, it's hard to find a role model. That's just the fact, Mike. That's where we are right now in society. Because guys that you start liking, that you start finding as role models, next thing you know, you hear about them getting in trouble with that, and that's definitely a problem. But then you do have occasional guys that are role models. Like you could say Derek Jeter, as much as that just hurts to come out of my mouth. I hate the Yankees. But you could say a guy like Derek Jeter. That would be a guy where you would say he would be a role model in the league because he's a guy that's been clean his entire career. But there's plenty of kids that grew up loving A-Rod. There's plenty of guys that love Barry Bonds, even though we all knew he was juicing. There's just plenty of guys that kids definitely, Roger Clemens, guys like that. So to find a role model in today's sports world is just so hard. So of course, I would not be okay with my favorite player, but it's got to be a shock. If a guy that you really, let's say I like Miguel Cabrera of the Detroit Tigers. If I find out tomorrow that he's doping, that he is getting in trouble with PEDs, we're in trouble, Mike. Because that's just definitely not good.
Back in the steroid era, when you're looking at it, for instance, my sister loved Rafael Palmeiro, and they had that huge ordeal. He played first base for the O's. They had a huge ordeal where he was on the stand and said, "I did not do it."
Yeah, they all said that, Mike.
They all said it, and it comes down to it when they said it, and all of a sudden, boom, it comes out where they said, "Oh yeah, I did do it." Then it's like this guy's a liar. You obviously see, for instance, like Andy Pettit. Yeah. He came out and said, "You know what? I did it. I got caught. I did it, and that's it." And now no one thinks of him as a steroid user because he came out and said he did it. And then when he came back and said, "Okay, basically, I'm just going to go out there and play now." He wasn't as dominant as a pitcher, but he went out there and played pretty well at his older age. So looking at it, I think that you got to come out and say it first, not like a Ryan Braun or anybody that just goes out there and says they didn't do it and then they did.
Just don't lie. Just don't lie. Don't lie to the fans. That's all you got to do.
Listen to your parents out there, kids.
There you go. Moving on. Picks of the week. Final segment here, Mike. We got 5 events to pick. And again, we're going to be keeping track. You can keep track at home as well on who's getting right picks, who's getting wrong picks. And we'll come up with something for the winner, something for the loser to do. But we got 5 games. We'll start with USA versus Portugal. That game's being played on the 22nd of this month. Again, we talked about at the top of the show, the group of death, quote unquote. Portugal, one of those teams that USA is looking at uphill battle with. Who's your pick, Mike? USA or Portugal?
It's a hard pick when you're looking at it. I want to go with the U.S. I want to be an American. I want to be proud to be an American. Which I want to be, the proud American that says, I believe that we will win.
Waving the flag.
But, it's waving the flag, Ben, thank you. Looking at it, I just can't say that because the defensive woes for the United States in the first game against Ghana, don't get me wrong, Ghana is fast, they're very good in their attacking zone, and overall they can play soccer, or football as some people call it. But looking at it, yeah,
Okay.
you like that one, didn't
All
you?
right.
Pulled that one out of the hat. Anyways, looking at it, I mean, Ghana's, like I said, is good, but they're not Portugal. Portugal has a lot better front two in Nani and Ronaldo. Definitely, they don't have Pepe, which is their best defender on the back, and they also have some injuries. But you're looking at it and thinking, is their back line going to, toughen up and stop Ronaldo? I don't think so. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I definitely think that Ronaldo is going to go out there and have a couple nice goals out there to the point where, the U.S. is just holding on their heels because he's so fast. DeMarcus Beasley didn't have a great game. You have two guys that are making their World Cup debut in the center back position, and they just can't keep up with Ronaldo. So, like I said, I love the United States men's national team, but looking at it, I don't think they can stand up with Ronaldo and Nani up front.
Well, I am also an American, Mike, and I am going to go with America. I'm going to go with USA over Portugal. Now, like you said, Ghana and Portugal are not the same team. Portugal is definitely more talented. But look, USA, I think there's some magic on this team. I'll tell you.
Magic?
I think there's some magic on this team. I like this
What
group.
kind of magic?
That game, well, you'll have to find out. I like that game against Ghana. There was some reminiscent of the whole Landon Donovan crazy goal, back a couple World Cups ago. But Mike, I again, with Klinsmann coming out and saying, don't expect the USA to win the World Cup. Okay, I mean, you can say that if you're coach. That's a realistic approach, I guess, because where USA stacks among everyone else in the world. But if you're rooting for USA, you're going to root for them to win the World Cup. We're not going to root for them to finish in fifth, sixth place in the standings, Mike. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Let's be honest here.
Yeah, so I mean, Klinsmann can say that, but me as a fan, true red-blooded American, I'm definitely going USA over Portugal. Let's move on. Baltimore at Yankees. So we're going to pick the series. Who's going to win this series? And so we got Yankees, Baltimore at Yankees. Mike, who do you got?
Going with the hometown O's. Are they counting hometown?
Oh,
yeah, they
right
should.
up, yeah.
Well, I'm a Nats fan,
Well,
but
it takes
I'm an
4
O's
hours to
fan.
drive there, but they're really an hour away.
Yeah, in the traffic. But anyways, we love the DC traffic. That's great. So anyways, basically, I'm going with the O's here because I think even though Matt Wieters is now out for the season, I definitely believe that they can still come back and they can still pitch very, very well. Their pitching has been lacking some substance lately. But overall, I believe that the Yankees, and they might get a win with Tanaka on the mound, but I don't believe that they can sustain anything because their hitting is just not that great, and that's why they buy their teams just like the Miami Heat. And looking at it, I definitely think the O's are going to win this one.
All right, I'm going on the opposite. I'm saying the Yankees in this series, and again, it pains me, Mike. Again,
He's a homer.
I'm going with the Yankees. I see your point, but at the same time, I also see Baltimore just struggling this year. I just don't. The injuries are there. As you said, they're missing some of their big key players. This is still a strong Baltimore team, but I think the Yankees, these are two teams that are underachieving this season. I'm going to say the Yankees, though, achieving a little bit more than the Orioles. And they're at home. Yeah, I like the Yankees at home there in that situation. So I'll go the opposite way. So we'll definitely have that head-to-head matchup. Texas.
This fan's not interested.
Yeah, Texas at L.A. Rangers and the Angels. Who you got, Mike, in the series?
Man, I'm going to go with the Angels, and I believe you have the Angels as well. Mike Trout, I wanted to not like him because of the sole fact that I'm a Nats fan and Bryce Harper is like the arch nemesis, as everyone's calling it in the media. But looking at it, Mike Trout is now getting commercials where they're showing his clips, highlight clips, because, he obviously had that Subway commercial where he was hitting the balls in the subway and all whatever.
Yeah, you like that commercial where he's hitting from the park into the subway?
It was actually pretty clever.
Those are pretty good. I like
But looking at it, I don't believe that, it's going to come down to anything in Texas. Texas is a good team, but the LA Angels team, Albert Pujols is starting to hit now. Their pitching is doing well. Jared Weaver's pitching pretty well. But I just believe that when you're looking at Mike Trout and the way he can just change a ball game from any aspect, I'm definitely going with the Angels to win the series.
Well, not only Mike Trout, but they got a lot of speed at the top, and you got guys like Howie Kendrick in this ball game as well. I like the Angels in this series as well. I think they're playing really good ball right now. If you look at what they've done over the past couple of weeks, they're really starting to put it together. No World Series run or anything for these guys, but definitely making a nice run. Texas, not so much. We got Detroit at Cleveland. And surprisingly, see, what I usually do, Mike, and you know this doing shows with me.
Yes, I do.
Is what I usually do is I like picking against the team that I like because then I can be happy because, Mike, if I pick the other team and they win, then I picked the right team. If I pick the other team and Detroit wins or my team wins, then I'm happy because that team won.
Soon to be college graduate.
Yeah, there we go. So I did the math, I did the numbers, I figured it all out, Mike. So Detroit at Cleveland. I'm picking the Tigers in this, but I would completely understand if you go the other way because the Tigers have not been playing that well lately. The pitching just hasn't really been there. They've played 2 big series this year with Kansas City. They lost some games. They lost to Minnesota. This Tigers team is not as strong as I'd like them to be, but guess what? The AL Central, not so good, Mike.
I'm going with the Indians from Cleveland, and by the way, Cleveland, LeBron James coming your way.
Yeah, there you go.
Just an FYI.
I say that every episode. Like, it's not going to happen. I'll tell you.
Oh, it's happening.
He's going to New York. He's going to go to
the folks
Golden
know
State.
it. The folks know
He's
it.
going to L.A., Mike. He's going to be a Laker.
Poll the audience. Let's go.
Yeah. Go
anyways, I'm going with Cleveland on this one because ever since the Detroit Tigers wore those things called Zumbas or
the
whatever.
Zumbas, they're like the pajamas with the tiger spots. They're like a onesie. It's a giant onesie. And they took that picture together?
Yeah, they took that picture, and then ever since then they started losing. And right now,
don't blame the Zumbas. They look great. We're gonna wear Zumbas next week. Let's go.
Okay, yeah. Now you got me off track here. The Zumbas. Anyways, basically, ever since that series where they had the Zumbas and Cleveland came out, and I believe they swept them.
Yep.
You're looking at it and thinking, what's Detroit going on right? What's going on with Detroit right now? Because you're looking at it, they had a huge lead in the AL Central, but all of a sudden now the Royals have won 8 straight. The Tigers are losing. I mean, can they get it together? Verlander, one of my main men.
He's 6-7, Mike. Justin Verlander, 6-7.
I thought Justin Verlander would come out here and have a remarkable year after it's kind of a down year last year.
Yeah.
But you're looking at it and thinking, what are the Tigers going to do? What are they going to do? Ever since they got rid of Prince Fielder, everything's going downhill.
Oh, no, I like the move, Mike. But go ahead, finish your stuff.
Oh, well, that's a Detroit fan here. I think that the Indians are going to take this series. I think it's going to be 2-3, or 2-1, I should say, in the series. But it's definitely going to be a close one because obviously you can't get away from Max Scherzer. And even if Justin Verlander pitches a good game.
Yeah.
But you're looking at it, and I definitely think that the Indians are going to come out with the series 2-1.
All that the Tigers fans are thinking about? Playoffs, man. All comes down to playoffs. They'll squeak into the playoffs, AL Central. They have a playoff, a World Series type team. They're going to be fine.
Squeaking.
Last thing, they'll squeak barely in, Mike. They'll squeak barely in. All right, last thing. Sometimes we like to go a little off the beaten path, and we'll pick a sport that we don't necessarily, I don't necessarily know a lot about. Mike definitely does. We're going to move over to NASCAR. We are down south here, Mike. We're Virginia. Toyota Save Smart 350. See, I had to read the paper. I have no idea what that race is. It's in Sonoma, California. We're going to pick which race, who's going to have the best finish. So we're each going to pick a racer. Mike knows who I'm going to pick because I pick the same guy every time. Mike, go ahead.
Okay, so Sonoma, California, it's a road race. That's why I threw this in there, because it's a road race and there's a lot of wrecks. You never know who's going to win these.
I was wondering what that means, Mike, a road race, so they just hop right on the highway.
It's a road race. They compare it to like an IndyCar race where there's a lot of turns. It's not like a typical, as everyone calls it, a circle, You have to...
That's what it is.
No, it's not. There's different things in NASCAR,
So you got to turn really left.
True fan would know that.
Yeah.
So anyways...
They're athletes. All right, go ahead.
Oh, they are considered athletes.
Finish.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So anyways... okay, so it's at Sonoma, California. It's a road race, okay? 2-mile track. Basically, they have tons of turns, and it's a type of track where, like I said, you don't know who's going to win. There's going to be a lot of wrecks. They have as many wrecks as typical, let's say, like Bristol or Dover, smaller tracks, to the point where, when they get really piled up and someone shifts wrong, it's a huge pile up. So you are going to go with somebody that, like you said, you pick them all the time, but I'm going to go somebody different. I'm going to go with kind of a favorite in these type of races, Tony Stewart. I think that Tony Stewart is one of the best road racers out there. I was going to go with the underdog pick and say Boris Said, because he's the only guy that actually goes out there, especially like a Robbie Gordon, but Robbie Gordon's not on the field this week, I believe.
You're saying names, I have no idea who these people are.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to show the folks at home that I know my stuff.
Boris Said is his name?
Boris Said.
Right.
Okay, that's his name.
All right.
No, it's not like Simon Says.
What car does he drive?
I don't know, because he only goes out there like 2 or 3 times a year for the road races. But basically, I was going to go with some of these underdog picks, but I think Tony Stewart is going to finish at least in the top 10 and use his veteran experience to try to go out there and get a good finish.
All right. You know who I'm picking, Mike?
I know.
I'm going with Casey Kane because I like his name. He sounds like an outlaw. It's a great name, Casey Kane, and because he finished only second to last in the last race, so I think I'm pretty good. I think he's going to make that comeback, Mike, because I picked him last time and he finished second to last, so he didn't finish in last. So I think I'm going to build off that momentum, and he's going to finish at the top in Sonoma, California, for the Toyota Save Smart 350. Who knows what all that means?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, and then our last little thing. Me and Mike like to have fun if you can't tell already. So also we throw out our last thing is I throw out an app of the week. So Mike, I've been combing through the app store. I've been looking at a bunch of different stuff. My app of the week this week is the Nike running app. It's a Nike running app. Now, Mike,
I don't use that.
Yeah, well, clearly neither of us do. I'll tell you one thing, Mike. The Nike running app, which again we're probably not going to need, it tells you, it keeps track of. No, I do use it, Mike. I've been running lately. If you can't tell, I'm sunburned. Mike, it keeps track of your mileage. It keeps track of the time, and then the greatest part is a C-list celebrity tells you how good you're doing. So like you'll have they'll come into your ears and you'll hear them go, good job, you're running pretty well, something like that. I don't know, it happens, and they tell you you're doing a good job, and I feel good when Sonia Richards-Ross tells me that I'm doing a pretty good job, Mike. So it makes me happy. It makes me feel good inside. So that's my pick of the week, the Nike running app. Go get it on all your app stores, Mike. I think it's free. It's free.
You think it's free?
I'm pretty sure it's free.
What if I want to go running today? Can I download it without paying any money?
I think so. You're gonna have to do it yourself. I already have it, Mike. I've been running. I've got like 10 miles on there already. Now, keep in mind, they were over a span of like 3 years, but it's all right. It's good.
That's what I
good.
assumed.
We're good, Mike. All right, Mike, I think that right about wraps it up. We'll definitely see you guys next week. We'll go over our winners and losers from our picks of the week. We'll go over some more headlines next week. Got a new game coming in. So, again, feel free to play at home with your picks of the week. Go ahead and get that paper out, scratch it down, who you got. And Mike, we'll definitely give our scores next week. Good first show.
It was a good first show. We appreciate the staff here at HCTV right here in Herndon, Virginia. But you know what? The first pick, everyone go follow us on all the social media outlets, at Cerrone16 for me on Twitter, at First Pick Blog for Ben.
For Mike Cerrone, I'm Ben Simpson. This has been the first pick right here on HCTV.